Hi friends, I'm in Norway, Bergen to be exact, at the Knitting Museum. So I saw this knitting museum earlier today when I was on a boat looking at the fjords of Norway, and I saw it from the water, and now I have driven to the museum. It's right there, and I'm going to take you on a little tour. Let's go! What I learned on the boat is that Bergen, Norway, was, hey Jason Glass Knits!
Knitting museum.
Everyone thinks you're such a good yarn husband.
I get to go to a knitting museum. This is so exciting.
Tomorrow I get to watch you run a marathon.
Hey, there's been a lot more knitting than marathons on this trip.
Hey, we can go anywhere you want to go. I just come up with the ideas first. I'm faster.
That's true. You are fast.
I'm faster at ideas and you're faster at running.
That's
but
true.
what we learned on the boat, what did they say? That the main industry here hundreds of years ago was textiles. This is a bit of a hike. All right. This is it. Is this it? Really? Is this really it? Of course, the Knitting Museum has this cushy place. All the books, knitting.
Welcome once again to the Knitting Museum. My name is Hilde. We'll be showing you around the factory today. So, as I just said, this was a factory earlier from 1859 to 1989. And they made clothes here out of both cotton and wool. And we are going to go through the fab factory and see the different machines and processes used in the production. And we have to clock in. Each worker would have their card and they would clock in like so. Usually at 7 in the morning. So at about 5 to 7 there would be a long queue of people waiting to go into the factory. Very important to be on time. If you were just a few minutes after 7 you could have a whole hour of pay taken from your paycheck. So you need to be on time. Original factory building from 1859. So as you see, this was a quite remote place, no houses or anything around. So this whole village of Salhus, which is where we are, grew up around this factory. And there was another factory too, a weaving factory. So those two factories together employed about 700 people. It grew into a factory where they did the whole process of treating wool and cotton, making it into yarn, knitting, and designing and sewing and making all different types of clothes. And the factory ended up closing down in 1989. And his son, Emil, took over after him. So he was actually the manager from 1909 to 1967. So those two men were very important in kind of shaping this as a community. During his and under his management, the factory grew to have a colossal production and huge sales numbers, especially in the 1950s and 60s. And as we see here, there was about 50-50 men and women in total in the factory, but they worked in different departments, so they didn't work together in the factory. So the little school was actually this house right up the hill here. It says 1878 above the door, and it's a little brownish door. So that was the first school in the area, and that was for the children of the wool. Down here is the preparation for spinning, carding, and then the actual spinning on the machine here. So I have some wool here that has not been combed or prepared in any way. It's been washed, but is otherwise very, very tangly, as you see. So what we need to do with it is to card the wool or comb the wool. So this is a little carding machine, and the wool goes in here. And then it gets kind of ripped apart by all of these little spiky wheels or cylinders. And it gets gradually more and more processed and becomes smoother and smoother. And you get also all the little wool fibers heading in the same direction. So that's the principle of the carding. I'm going to start.
I believe it still works.
So yes, why they built the factory here? And well, in general, this was kind of actually a textile hub of Norway. This general area. And here we have a little stream, a little river coming down the mountain that wasn't bought by anyone. It wasn't purchased by anyone. So they bought that little river to have access to clean water all the time, and that was one of the reasons. But it's not that well known, exactly why they settled on this. Probably they got a good deal on plotted land from the farmer that owned the area. This is from 1911. So you start by putting in the wool in the end here. It goes over the belt here, and then into the same process as you saw with the small machine. There's not meant to be any gaps here. We're working on the machine. And the wool keeps moving from part to part, and it goes down here and goes over the conveyor belt and continues on this side. So you can follow me, just be aware that there's something you can trip on the floor. So as you see, the wool
leather
goes
belt
down here, and it goes continually getting more and more processed, more refined, and now we end up with kind of a blanket
and over and down.
That kind of shows you the actual function of this machine, is to just make sure that everything is very, very smooth and even, so that you're going to get an even and regular product in the end. So this blanket of wool fibers is getting combed
all the way
more and
around
more.
here.
This is the last round here. And then in this part of the machine, this blanket goes into the machine here, and it gets divided into sections and kind of shaped a little bit as a thread or roving. And this is, it comes out looking like this. So this you can kind of use for knitting, but you have to be very careful. But it's not suitable for machine knitting because it hasn't been spun yet. So by just twisting it with my fingers, I actually do simulate the spinning process, and it becomes stronger right away. So that's what we need to do on the spinning machine. So we take this roving onto the machine that we have. So the spinning machine that we have is called the ring frame spinning machine, and it's from the 1960s. So this one is quite a bit new. Gray wool, and actually gray wool, but it's otherwise the same. Goes into the machine and gets spun twice, once up here and once down here. And the machine is simply twisting the thread like I showed you with my fingers, and it becomes strong and usable for knitting now. So the thread goes onto these spools here, and then you take them out and you take them onto the next step. First you will have to transfer them to another shape, a cone or another type of spool, and then you can dye the thread. So these are all also carding machines, 3 lines of them. So you would actually have more than just that one machine going at once. And you would have a few more spinning machines in that room too. In here, this is the old part like I mentioned. It's from 1900. You can see kind of from outside especially clearly that this is kind of a different building. It was built at a slightly different time. These machines are all German, and they all ran on steam power when they were installed. So they had a big steam engine outside, and then they had this belt system throughout the factory, the different floors, that would distribute the power to the machines.
Crazy.
There would be about 2 or 3 men per line here. So 6, 7 maybe in this room. It's what we call a winding machine. So it winds the thread or transfers the thread from the spool, like this one, over to over to cones like this one. So in the process, the thread also gets waxed. So it would have been dyed already before it got here. And this you wax the thread to make it smoother, to make it run better through the knitting machines. You use these cones because they're more practical and you can fit more thread on them, and they can be stacked and so on. So here there was women working on these machines in this department, about 2 women on each side of the machine here. So they had quite a lot to look at. So here we ply together several, 2, 3 or 4 depending on the thickness you want on the final product. So all yarn that you buy in a shop will have been through a machine like this one, because all yarn consists of several threads. You can also combine lots of different colors, as you see. So I'm going to start it. I'd like you to not stay super close to the machine, please. Machines from different eras. So actually only men work up here. You have to be very, very competent with the machines and know how to fix them to work. So I have a little hand-powered knitting machine here. So I'm showing you this because it shows very well and very clear the principle of all knitting machines, which is that you have all these little needles here. So each one is holding a hoop, and then it pulls the thread that goes around down through the existing hoop to create a new one. So that's how all knitting machines work in some way. As you see, it's round, so you could use this for making socks, for instance. If anyone wants to have a go, feel free to do so. But he would just be swirling and swirling, and for maybe 12 or even 15 hours in a day. So there would be a lot of damage to the bodies of the workers.
I heard doing it 4 times.
That is also hand-powered, a flat machine. Yes. This shows back and forth. This is pretty small part, so it's kind of hard to see the mechanism of it, but we can have a look at this one. Okay. And then it has been modernized later on, so now it knits using electric power instead of hand power. Very handy. The flat piece of fabric coming out underneath, getting pulled down constantly. And if I stop it here, and if you come a little closer here, you can see again that there's all these little needles. They are on each side, going kind of like this around here. And then this one here is about to pull the thread down and through the existing hoop to create a new one again. And on
Is this a super large scarf, super long right now?
This is a super long scarf, yeah. So this is what we use for making scarves. You just cut them up and then you sort of secure the seams. But you will cut it up instead of letting the machine run out of thread, because it takes a long time to re-thread them. Hona means brown in Norwegian. macro was the type of cotton that they used. So these machines are knitting some in cotton, some of them are knitting in wool right now. Or not right now, they're not in use right now, but and then you can cut that up and sew it into different pieces. Or you can also use the tube as the kind of torso for products, like shirts.
Cotton on this machine.
Because this is taken directly from the tube, knitted on the machine, and just knit the seam at the end and clip the shoulder. Wow. So it's quite handy. You save on labor, you save on fabric by doing it that way. So these products are dyed, actually dyed after they were made into different types of clothes, and then you cut it up and sew it into a sweater like this one. So it's actually knitted so densely that even if you cut straight into the material here, it won't really unravel. So that's the hallmark of a good knitting machine. It's very, very dense. So these types of sweaters were originally made for fishermen in Iceland. It would be on boats, being sprayed with a lot of seawater, being wet and cold for a long time. So then you needed something properly heavy duty to keep you warm.
Yeah.
And they would also be leathered with different types of grease and lanolin, different types of sock knitting machines. These are a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
From Japan. And you could program onto a cassette different patterns of socks and pop that in there, and so it would do different things.
What
so kind
in
of
the world?
Computer age. Yeah, you will make the cassette holds the little track of a code, and then that works with the machine and tells it to knit a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So the socks come out like this with two openings and kind of two heels. But then this is not a heel, this is meant to be where you put your toe. So by making a seam across here, across the other kind of different direction, and cutting off a little bit, you get the place where you put in your toe. So if you ever wondered why there's a seam across the top of the toe of your sock, it's because it's been made like this. So all socks that we buy today are made on these machines.
Where's the fun in that?
It's more practical for the machine to knit these two parts that are completely equal, but can be used for different things. Simpler than the machine doing loads more different things.
Oh, punch cards. Yes. Are these them?
Yes. So by these little holes on these cards form a code again, and then that will determine what pattern the machine is knitting. So by replacing the cards, you could do all these different types of material. So these are actual samples from 1973 of different types of sweater fabrics that they knitted on this machine by just replacing the code cards. So that's technology, or that technique developed for different textile machines was the same that was later used for computers. So it's we definitely owe a lot to the textile industry.
Yeah, we do.
We have a couple of English knitting machines here. They're from Leicester, called the Bentley Company and the Comet Knitters. They have some information about them here. So these are knitting the socks in long strings, like this, without stopping between each, and then you have to cut up each sock individually. So you cut actually away all of this, the blue and the white. Then this white thread here can actually dissolve in water. So that means that you're going to get a nice and even edge at the end of the sock. So I'm going to start it so you can see. So the sock is being knitted inside here, comes out getting pulled down into the container. And then the programming of the machine are these discs here. So when that changes, it means that it's doing a new part of the sock. So the machine sets now, it takes about 3 minutes per sock. part that employed the most people. And that was only women that worked in the sew. But first you had to cut up the fabrics. So here we have rolls of these tube type of fabrics from one of the knitting machines on the knitting department. So you lay them out on clipping tables, many layers on top of each other, and cut out around patterns like the ones we have there. So you'd send all these different pieces to be assembled by the seamstresses. And each one would have one task. So one would do maybe attach this brand mark, and then one would do the sleeves and so on. So almost like an assembly line, you do one part, pass it on to the next person, and then she would do another part. So that was a very efficient way of doing it. You could do loads and loads at a time, but it also meant that you were stuck doing the same little thing over and over and over again. That was very, very boring and repetitive, much more so than in any other part of the factory. They would be sitting on one of these desks like this and just doing the same thing over and over. And they got also paid usually less than the men of the factory. They got paid according to how much they produced this work, and somehow it never really added up to the hourly rate that most men in the factory. They kind of managed to connect these products that they made to our sort of Norwegian values of being outdoors, being hiking, skiing, all these different things. So to do that, you have to have healthy underwear. Today, as I mentioned, we have a little bit of a production. Mostly we do different things in this Salus pattern, which is this one in different colors. We do a little bit of cotton products like t-shirts and so on, and a lot of socks and scarves and that sort of thing.
So if we had come here earlier, would we see people sewing?
Not really. It's not a big production. It's a little bit here and a little bit there. So it's more to keep the machines going.
Okay.
There's not someone in here every day.
I see.
But sometimes, yeah.
But it does happen here.
Yeah, some of this sewing takes place here. There's,
cool.
you see a lot of socks being made right now.
Yeah, very cool. There's Steve, and Stephen West is here. That's funny. They have little kits for the heart pillow. And here's the sweaters they were talking about. Machine knitted. Look at this little bonnet. That is adorable. Here's that scarf we saw being made. I'm shocked, but I actually learned something. What was the most interesting thing you learned?
The whole thing, I didn't know anything about it.
Really? You've never watched Kristyglass Knits? Rude.
No, I watch every episode.
Rude!
But you don't talk about machine knitting.
I was thinking about your socks and that company that like profits or makes you think that your gold toe socks are superior, but really it's just a machine knitting trick.
Now I was really thinking about how they cut stuff all the time, and like true knitting, you're not really cutting stuff.
Well, that is machine knitting, yeah. They're basically making fabric that you cut and sew.
Yeah.
And I was also fascinated by the cassette tape Japanese sock situation. Thanks for going with me, honey.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking me along, Kristyglass Knits.
We're in Norway. Bye.